Stocks down, way down, amid fears of a slowdown here and abroad. The Dow sliding 5% for the month, suffering its largest January point loss ever. And now the minimum wage could be going up, way up. President Obama pushing private companies to raise it to $10.10 an hour. But with the economy still shaky, is this any time to be shaking things up? Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. Here we go. The Bulls and Bears this week. We have Gary B. Smith, Tracy Burns, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with David Mercer. Welcome to everybody. Okay, Gary B., wrong or right time for this?
Well, Brenda, it's the completely wrong time. And here's the problem. Government telling business what to do is like me telling Peyton Manning how to be a great quarterback on Sunday. It's just apples to oranges. Look, I don't think there's anyone in government that really has a feel for how businesses work, what a bottom line is, how to improve efficiency. I mean, you know, we always raise the example of Solyndra as a bad example of a government failure, but there's about a dozen other companies, if not more. There's companies, Abound Solar, we lost $790 million. Rains Fuels, $162 million. The Chevy Volt, for example, has not budged an inch on year-to-year sales from 2012 to 2013. So for government, Brenda, to tell business what to do is just, it's insane.
David, does government have a role with wages?
They certainly do, and they have a history of doing so. The minimum wage has been passed, raises to the minimum wage have been passed several times, but the last time was not since 2009 under George Bush. And it's about high time that those wages were increased. And if you want to do business with the government, then you need to pay a decent wage and not a wage that needs to be subsidized by the government, I might add, with food stamps, as we've seen with Walmart and other companies that are paying below the minimum wage. And not to add to that, you know, 76% of the American public wants to see an increase in the minimum wage. 19 states have a minimum wage above the federal wage now. And you have 13 others pursuing the same, and it just happened in New Jersey, actually putting it in to adjust for inflation in New Jersey in the Constitution. So I think it's about time we raise the minimum wage.
Really, John? Is there any time that government should be telling business how to run its business?
No, not with these guys. Good Lord. They can't even build a website despite spending $500 million. And look, everybody goes after Walmart. Well, I don't want to make this about Walmart, but they pay a lot more than your minimum wage. The one thing that David is right about is the fact that this needs to be taken out of government hands. I mean, how does President Obama decide it's $10? Last year he said it was $9. Why not make it $15? Why not make it $50? I mean, this is insane. The average person who has a minimum wage worker in their house, that household brings in just over $53,000. There's not a correlation of more percentages of people working for minimum wage than any other part of the economic spectrum as far as poverty is concerned. So you're not addressing poverty with minimum wage. Take this out of government's hands, link it to something like inflation and a basket of wages, then you don't have a political tool like President Obama is using.
Okay, Jonas, I know that you think that government has a role in regulating business, but are wages, should they be part of that?
That's a tough call. I would say, at least we're not in a recession, because you wouldn't want to raise wages in a recession because you need low wages to suck up the slack labor force. But, okay, we already know the government regulates safety and environmental rules because a company might spill garbage in a river if there wasn't a rule against it. That's not the government telling them how to run the business or putting up a website for the business. That would be a mistake. The question is, do wages fall into this area? Is there an element of greater good? Does it cost society more when Target or somebody pays a lower wage because food stamp costs go up, to bring up David Mercer's point, education costs go up for taxpayers, prison costs go up for taxpayers? Is it cheaper to actually make the company pay them more, which means higher consumer prices? You know, they do an experiment. I'd like to see what would happen if we had a higher minimum wage rule for a few years, see what happens to the other costs of government. Maybe there's a balance. I'm not sure it's there. I know it's there for environmental rules, but
it's not there. It's not there, Joe, because you know what? You raise minimum wage, you lose jobs at the end of the day. That means people are not bringing any money home. That means they're not adding anything to society. They're going back on the government dole. And then, therefore, we got welfare and food stamps just going higher and higher by the second. More and more people on it. Why? Because they're getting priced out of heck, the minimum wage. You can't have a mom-and-pop pizza place in need of a dishwasher when you keep raising minimum wage, because you know what? They're going to say, heck, we'll wash them ourselves. And that does not help society. That does not help the economy.
Do they, or they just raise the pizza price? I think that's what really is going to happen.
You go to fancy pizza places, not me. The little cheap mom and pops that I go to, they're not raising the slice of pizza. It's still $1.50. And the problem is we're not seeing that other people are getting jobs off of this. And I think that's the problem. And I guess when you sit in your Oval Office, you don't get to the local mom and pop pizza place all too often. You don't realize what the trickle-down effect is and how it puts people out of work instead.
And what do you think about that, David? This is pretty much the law of supply and demand, isn't it?
It is, but there's a study that was done in 2006 from the Center for American Progress that showed, in a comparison of states that did have a higher minimum wage, did much better on the employment front than those states that didn't have as high a minimum wage.
Okay.
And so it's been documented and it's empirical that in raising the minimum wage, you also increase wages or the wage scale for others to have an increase as well.
There are lots of studies, and there's lots that goes into the unemployment rate. Gary, what do you say about that?
Well, look, you're right. I'll see your study and I'll raise you 2 studies. But, this is the problem of how the left thinks. They just think, well, the magic panacea is just give them more money. And unlike businesses, they never think about the next step. They, like, say I have a pizza shop and I now pay my employees more than, the minimum wage goes up and I pay them. Where does the government think that money comes from? It comes from the pizza shop owner. So at the end of the year, he has less money. And what does he do with that less money? He doesn't open another pizza shop, employing more people. See, the government just thinks, pay them more money. Problem solved. It's easy. They never think like a business does. That's the problem. That's why I could go on and on with all the business failures, because they just don't get it. They only think politics and getting realelected.
Well, I think you and Tracy and Jonas should start a pizza shop.
I'm getting hungry.
You've got to go. Absolutely. Jonas, weigh in, please.
I'm going to do one as well, and also pay fair wages, and we'll compete.
Good. You'll be out of business in a year. Don't worry.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Jonas, what do you say?
Well, the price of cheese goes up every year. It doesn't put everybody out of the pizza business either. And to the original point,
because the price of cheese goes up for everyone, though, Jonas.
Well, that's what would happen with the minimum wage. There was index to inflation.
Too.
Everybody. That's what my point is. The price of pizza. I'm not denying the prices would go up with a higher minimum wage for consumers. That's who's going to get hit. Does it create massive unemployment like in France? Maybe if we went to a $20 minimum wage. I think somewhere in the 10 to 12, then they said it's an index of inflation isn't going to destroy the economy. It will raise prices for consumers, but it might lower their taxes for things like food stamps.
But the difference here is
I need
the difference is I need to buy the cheese, so I'm going to buy the cheese. I don't need to employ the people. I could do it myself. So I can be an industrious pizza owner and just be really, really busy and really tired at the end of the day and not employ people to help me, even though because I have to put that extra money into the rising cost of cheese.
Okay, John, last word here.
Understand, this is a political distraction, though. President Obama has 50 million people almost in America in poverty. They need jobs right now. And raising the minimum wage on 200,000 people, that is exactly what he's doing. Right. This does nothing. He could have come out. What happened to the president who wanted to cure cancer and make the oceans rescind and go back down? This president now does something for 200,000 people out of 140 million people working. He could have done something to fix the minimum wage where you had bipartisan support of linking it somehow to a basket of wages and inflation. Instead, he doesn't do that. This was political grandstanding that does absolutely nothing.
Okay. And
he's created 8 million jobs in 46 months.
There's 1 million less jobs right now than when he started, David, and that is a fact. 1 million less jobs by the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
All right. That's got to be the last word, guys.